from the police department. My official title is Police Community Relations Specialist, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking to you about SEPTED. Is an idea that's been around for about 30 years, and if you're ever driving around and you see a building, some type of structure that has a broken window, what comes to your mind? Anything?
Deserted in most cases.
Deserted, abandoned. Well, you know, there's so many special people out there. Our special juveniles out there. What do you think comes to their minds when they see a broken window?
Pick up a rock.
Exactly. Now, the whole idea about the broken window is if it's left untreated, if no one does anything about it, if it's ignored, it sends a message to those special people out there that this area is, no one's in control of it, no one cares about it, no one's in charge of it. So it's practically an invitation for them to pick up that rock and chunk it through and break out the rest of the windows. And so the idea is that when you have something like a broken window, you need to fix it right away. You need to show that there is control over that area, that someone is in charge of it. If you don't, it's going to lead to further blight and deterioration. And so SEPTED kind of sprung from those kind of ideas. 3 design elements. A 4th component was added, which is not actually a design element, but it's very important for SEPTED to be successful. Let's talk about the working definition of what exactly SEPTED means. SEPTED stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And the proper definition is, it is the proper design and effective use of the built environment that can lead to a reduction in crime, the fear of crime, and an improvement in the quality of life. I like to think of it as basically designing safety into projects, buildings, structures, designing safety into them. The secret to SEPTED is designing the buildings to eliminate or reduce the criminal behavior while encouraging people to look out for one another. And this is what's going to be important in your neighborhoods, encouraging people to look out for one another. Okay. One way, our first design element is actually called natural surveillance. Natural surveillance is the placement of physical features, activities, and people in a way to maximize visibility. And why that's important, let's talk about an example. Do you remember back when houses were built and they had the big front porches? Anybody remember? The whole idea of those front porches, and we miss them. In law enforcement, we think they're just the greatest thing because it does. It gets people sitting out there in the front porch, and what are they doing? They're observing what's going on in the neighborhood. It's bringing eyes and ears out to the street, so people can see what's going on. So if somebody comes to that neighborhood with the intention of committing crime, here you've got all these eyes and ears out there, witnesses to see what's going on. And this is going to discourage a would-be criminal. So having a front porch on a house is a perfect example of natural surveillance because it quite naturally will be utilized by family members and will provide that surveillance that we like. Go out to a business and we see, like, take a typical video store. One thing that they like to do is they like to put their posters in the windows and cover all their windows with the posters. Why do they do that? Because they're advertising what their products, what movies they have, because they want you all to rush in there and rent those videos, right? They're creating a situation where there's no visibility. So for example, if a passing patrol car passes by and say there's someone in this business that's holding a gun to the employees and robbing the place, they've got all these posters up on the windows blocking the visibility. That passing patrol car is not even going to have a chance to see inside what's going on. So one of the things that my partner and I do when we talk to businesses, we encourage them not to block your windows. Leave your windows unobstructed so you can maximize visibility and create another attempt for having natural surveillance. Another example, activity support. Something else that my partner and I do when we work with the crime-free multi-housing communities. If there is an apartment community that contacts us and says, wow, we're having a lot of problems with people that are hanging around and causing problems on our property and they don't belong here, and we might come out and visit that property and we might say, hey, you know, you've got this great grassy area that is being utilized by people that don't belong here. Why don't you do activity support by placing a barbecue pit, picnic tables, benches, maybe a little playground area for children? And what's that going to do for the people that live there? What's that going to do?
Gonna get them out. Draw occupancy to the area.
It's going to draw the people who are living there out to use those activities. And once the legitimate users come out and use those activities, the bad people that are hanging around out there are going to go away. Because they don't want to be observed. They don't want to be seen. And so activity support is another function of natural surveillance. So that is one element of the SEPTED strategies. The next element, design, is natural access control. And natural access control involves the physical guidance of people coming and going from a space by the placement of entrances, exits, fencing, landscaping, and lighting. The goal here is to create a perception of risk to offenders and deny them access to the targets that they're trying to get to. So for example, one of the things that we may get a call about in the police department is vehicle theft in a parking lot. So one way that we might say to the business that has this parking lot that's getting a lot of vehicle theft, we might say, well, we want to control the access and make it so it's not so easy for these criminals to get in and out of this parking lot. So one simple way that we could accomplish this would be to put one of those arms down that controls access in and out. Another way that we could do this is we might say, you know what, maybe you shouldn't have so many entrances and exits. And that will control some access and make it not so inviting for someone that wants to come to the area and commit crime. When I used to work in Lemon Grove, one of the things that they used to say is that the criminals like to come to Lemon Grove. There was one long street called Broadway, and we had a lot of freeway entrances and exits off of Broadway. And in the sheriff's department there, they said it was a perfect place for people to come and commit crime. And they liked it because they could commit their crimes right there on Broadway where all the businesses were at and jump right on that freeway. Easy and quick freeway access. So criminals like lots of entrances and exits. So we're going to say, let's do something, design it so that it's not so easy. So control that access. You might come out to your neighborhood and do a neighborhood watch meeting, and we might do what we call a residential security consultation, which means we look around your property, we walk your property with you, and we give you suggestions of what you could do to make your house a harder target against crime. Because that's what we're here to learn about, right? So one thing we might say, okay, criminals like to enter into people's homes and back windows frequently. That's a favorite place they like to enter. So what Richard and I might say to you, to control that access there, natural access control, why don't you plant a nice little row of thorny bushes underneath those vulnerable windows? And if you do that, the criminal that's going to be trying to get to your windows, well, it's not going to be so easy for them now. And Richard has a favorite plant that he uses. What is it? NATO plum, with those great big long thorns. The whole idea is controlling that access, because the burglar who wants to try to attempt to break in those windows is not going to want to stand there in those thorny bushes and get poked and pricked. There's a street to where I know somebody's got a door open or a window open and I can waltz right in. Why do I have to stand here and get poked with this plant?